got the NFC wild card. We got the New Orleans Saints versus the Minnesota Vikings. Now, before I get into it, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, because when you subscribe to the channel, you get me one subscriber closer to my subscriber goal of 5,000 subscribers. Also, make sure you like the video, share the video with your friends, co-workers, family, because I upload NFL videos and college football videos daily. So, in this game, we got the Minnesota Vikings taking on the New Orleans Saints, and pretty much is a game that I'm really looking forward to. Out of all of the wild card matches that we have for both conferences, this is a game that I'm looking forward to the most, because these are two of the most talented teams that we have in the NFC. Now, I'm not saying that these are the most talented teams. I'm saying these are two of the most talented teams that we have competing this weekend in the wild card. Now, the Saints are offensive juggernaut, right? Now, the question is not how much offense we're going to see from the Saints, because we know the Saints are going to put up a lot of points in this game, right? The question is, how good is New Orleans Saints defense going to be? And for Minnesota is Kirk Cousins going to be good enough to help this Minnesota Vikings team win this playoff game versus the New Orleans Saints at New Orleans? Because, listen, they have Dalvin Cook, who at the beginning of the season was making a strong bid to win NFL MVP. Now they kind of died off with the hype that we started to see around Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Russell Wilson. But Dalvin Cook has had a really great season. He's probably been one of the best running backs in all of football this season. So Dalvin Cook has been the big driving factor behind this Minnesota Vikings offense, right? Now, Kirk Cousins had a stretch when he was looking like an MVP contender. He was looking like an MVP caliber of a player. And then we saw that Monday night game, and yeah, we got brought back to reality about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins still has a losing record on Monday Night Football and in primetime games. Now, given that's not all his fault, but at the end of the day, you still got to put some blame on him. So the question is Kirk Cousins going to be able to show up in this playoff game versus the New Orleans Saints? Now, Minnesota Vikings, you guys can make all the excuses you want to about Kirk Cousins, but listen, at the end of the day, when you're like, what, 5 and what's it? He has a terrible record in primetime games, right? So, I mean, you can make all the excuses in the world about him not having the best team and all that. But at the end of the day, if you have the record that Kirk Cousins has in primetime games, so it's not just your team. It's your quarterback's performance, right? Now I could give him a little bit of leeway if he had a bad Minnesota Vikings team, but this is a stacked team. This is one of the most talented rosters in all of football. So it's really no excuse for Kirk Cousins to come out here and stink it up versus the New Orleans Saints. He has a very solid offensive line. You got one of the best halfbacks in football. You got probably the best wide receiving core in all of football. Maybe the second best if you look at the Cleveland Browns and Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. But you got Adam Thielen, you got Stephon Diggs, fully healthy. You got Carl Rudolph and Irv Smith. So really, it's no excuse for Kirk Cousins to lose this game, right? No external factors, no excuses. This is a stacked team. If Kirk Cousins loses this game, I'm putting this loss on Kirk Cousins, because it's way too much talent on this team for him not to show up in this game, right? Now, New Orleans. New Orleans is a juggernaut. Their offense is loaded. Drew Brees, a lot of people thought this New Orleans Saints team was going to end up missing the playoffs going into the offseason because Drew Brees was slowing down. Drew Brees hasn't missed a snap. He came back from that injury, and he came up putting up impressive numbers. That game versus the 49ers showed you everything you need to know about how good Drew Brees is at this point in his career and how good his New Orleans Saints offense is, because the 49ers have one of the best defenses in all of the NFL. The 49ers got lit up versus the New Orleans Saints offense. This was the 49ers defense that was allowing a little bit over 200 yards per game when it came to passing yards per game allowed, right? And the New Orleans Saints just came in there and they just threw the ball all over San Francisco. So, I'm not worried about the New Orleans Saints offense in this game. Although Minnesota's defense is really talented, they have a lot of studs on the defense side of the ball, I'm more concerned about this New Orleans Saints defense. Because in the past, this New Orleans Saints defense, when you need them to show up the most in big games, in my opinion, they never show up. They never show up, right? Against the 49ers. All the Saints defense had to do was get one more key stop. And they weren't able to do that. In the playoffs a couple of years ago, they found a way to lose the game to the Rams. Although it was pass interference that should have been called and all that good stuff, you still can't look over the fact that when this defense has to show up in big time moments, they never show up. against Minnesota a couple years back. All Marcus Williams had to do was tackle the guy, and you would have won the game, and he couldn't even do that. So this New Orleans Saints defense, in big-time moments, in big-time situations, in big games, they always find a way to lose the game on defense. So I'm looking at this New Orleans Saints defense with the eyeball. And I'm going to be looking at if the Saints find a way to win this game, and they win this game, throughout the playoffs, I'm going to be keeping my eye on the New Orleans Saints defense. Because every time we get into the playoffs, the Saints defense always finds a way to lose the game. I don't care how talented they are. I don't care if they're stacked at the defensive back position. I don't care if they're loaded on the defensive line and things like that. When it's time for the New Orleans Saints to make a big-time play, a key stop, in a crucial moment of the game in the playoffs, they never do it. So, in this game, what are we expecting out of the Minnesota Vikings offense, right? Well, here's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting Dalvin Cook to carry the load. I'm expecting Dalvin Cook to at least get 20, 25 carries, right? Because, listen, if you're Minnesota, I'm not going to trust Kirk Cousins. Now, I know you're going to be crazy. You're going to be like, we're paying this guy $88 million in guaranteed money. We better be able to trust this guy. Listen, I don't trust this guy. Just because you're paying a guy a boatload ton of money doesn't mean you necessarily trust him. The heart and soul of this Minnesota Vikings offense has been Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook has been the best player on the Minnesota Vikings offense, right? So the game plan should be to feature Dalvin Cook and give him at least 20 to 25 touches in this game, with him being your best player. Although you have guys on the outside and you got receivers that are more than capable of making plays in the passing game, and you got Kirk Cousins, who should be more than capable of having a pretty big day, that's not what their offense is. This is a running football team. The head coach of the Minnesota Vikings this season said that he wanted to get back to his roots, which was running the football, power running. And that's what this Minnesota Vikings team wants to do. They want to run the football. They want to give Dalvin Cook 20 to 25 carries. That should be the goal in this game. Then you got Alexander Madison if he plays in this game. You also want to give him a little bit of touches as well when he's filling in for Dalvin Cook, when Dalvin Cook is getting a little bit of a breather. Then when you get that running game going, then you set up this New Orleans Saints defense for the play action passing game. So really, I think Minnesota, if they need to win this game, they need to give Dalvin Cook 20 to 25 touches. He needs to run the ball at least 20 times in this game, at minimum. 20 times. Because, listen, I'm not putting my trust in Kirk Cousins that Kirk Cousins is going to be able to show up and will this Minnesota Vikings team to a victory. He's never done it throughout his career. So what makes me as a believer, as an outsider, if I was to bet on this game, makes me believe that Kirk Cousins is more than capable of leading this Minnesota Vikings team to a win on the road in New Orleans, one of the toughest places to play in all of the NFL, in the Dome, in the playoffs, in a lot of environment, that Kirk Cousins is going to be good enough to carry this Minnesota Vikings offense to a win. I don't believe it. Dalvin Cook, he's the key factor in this game for Minnesota. If Minnesota loses this game, it's because Dalvin Cook didn't have a great game. It's because New Orleans was able to stop the run and Kirk Cousins wasn't able to get it done through the air. So Dalvin Cook should be the main focus for the Minnesota Vikings on the offensive side of the football. Not putting my faith in Kirk Cousins. I don't care how much money you're paying the guy. Dalvin Cook is the MVP of the offense, and he is what makes that offense for Minnesota click. When you got to put pressure on Kirk Cousins to win the game, he can't do it. So now let's look at New Orleans, right? I'm not worried about this New Orleans Saints offense. I know Minnesota has a stout defense. They're one of the most talented teams in the NFL on that side of the football. I'm not even going to name all the guys that they have. Daniel Hunter, Harrison Smith, Xavier Rose. They're just loaded on the defense side of the football. So I'm not going to get into the studs that they have on the defense side of the football. But what I am looking at for the New Orleans Saints is not their offense, but I'm more concerned of the fact that, can they get stops on defense? Can this defense in big moments show up? Because every time we get into the playoffs and this New Orleans Saints defense has to get a key stop and a key moment, they fail and they come up short. So that's the question I'm looking at in this game. So the team I'm going to win this game, I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints. And the reason why is because, listen, New Orleans is really good when it comes to their ability to stop the run, right? Now, although Dalvin Cook might get a couple of big plays here and there, Kirk Cousins is still going to have to be able to make plays to win this game for Minnesota. And I'm not trusting Kirk Cousins, right? Now, I know you guys are going to be like, we got Adam Thielen, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I don't care how many weapons you have. Kirk Cousins, time in and time out, has failed to win the big game and the big moments and games that matter in primetime games. So if he has failed to win games for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's been known to his inability to win games and big playoff moments and things like that, why would I put my trust in him to do it again on the road in New Orleans? So I'm taking New Orleans to win this game. I think this game will be pretty high scoring for the most part. I'm going to take New Orleans to win this game. 31-27 is my final score prediction for this game. So let me know who you guys have win this game down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and college football videos, and thanks for watching.